Never mind.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is so good to see old friends and new friends here with us tonight as we celebrate on this Shabbat. We're going to begin with a beautiful prayer. A prayer that prays. Are we good?
Yep, we're good.
You did a moment. A prayer that asks that we should build this world with love and with compassion. The words are fairly easy, but I'm going to have the cantor teach them to you before we start.
Oh, now. I thought maybe you had more to say, and then I was going to teach.
I'm passing the microphone.
You're passing it. Here we go. Well, there's a lot of repetition, so I think the most important thing is to listen to the first line. But the only Hebrew that you might get a little mixed up in your head are three words. Olam Chesed Yibaneh.
Olam Chesed Yibaneh.
And then there's always Lai, 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 Lai.
My favorite.
Yes. Michael likes that part the best. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Lai, 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 Lai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Lai, 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 Lai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Lai, 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 Lai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. World from love, lie, 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 lie. And you must build this world from love, lie, 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 lie. And if we build this world from love, lie, 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 then God will build this world from love, lie, 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 lie.
The rabbis of old would describe Shabbat to be like a bride or a queen, someone who comes to a festive occasion to celebrate and enables and allows us to celebrate with them. But in order for this to feel like a festive celebration, we first have to get to know each other. So as we prepare to welcome in Shabbat, let's first take a moment to welcome each other. Don't be afraid to stand up and move around and introduce yourself to somebody you didn't know when you came in tonight. And if you're watching us from home, please feel free to say hello to each other in the chat online. That's an invitation.
That's the second time you've done it.
And so now we come back together, each in our seats, as we continue on page 138 with Lecha Dodi, and we'll be singing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. Page 138.
Lecha Dodi Nikrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabala Lecha Dodi Nikrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabala Shamor Bezachor Bedibur Echad Yishmi'anu Echad Adonai Echad Shemo Echad L'Shem U'Tiferet V'Litila Lecha Dodi Nikrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabala Lecha Dodi Nikrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabala Nikrat Shabbat Lekubeneleka Ki Mekor HaBeraka Merosh Mikedem Nesucha Sof Ma'aseh B'Machshavat Tchila Lecha Dodi Nikrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabala Lecha Dodi Nikrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabala Hitoreri Ki Ba'orekumi Uri Shir Daveri Kevod Adonai Alayich Nigla Lecha Dodi Nikrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabala Lecha Dodi Nikrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabala
רואי ושלום עטרת מעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה.
Lecha Dodi Nikrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabala Lecha Dodi Nikrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabala
It is so wonderful to be able to celebrate one of the youth in our congregation to be called to the Bima on this Shabbat as a bar mitzvah, and it's my pleasure to invite up Noah and his parents, Jill and Jason, and his older sister, Lucy, to come and join us on the Bima and to do us the honor of lighting the Shabbat candles. The blessing for the candles will be found on page 120, but first we continue with Shalom Aleichem on page 140.
Shalom Aleichem Malachei Asharet Malachei Elyon Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Bokem Shalom Malachei Shalom Malachei Elyon Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, those who kindle light.
Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Zeitchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We continue with the Baruch Hu on page 146. Please rise.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
We continue on page 148. Please join us.
La 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher bidbaro ma'ariv aravim ma'ariv aravim B'chokma poteach shavim ובתבונה משנה איתי ומחליף את הזמנים ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו וחושך מפני אור ומאוויר יום ומהיר לילה מבהיר בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו לילה 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 Baruch atah Adonai Amariv aravim Lai 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 Amariv aravim.
Page 150.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta Amcha ahavta Torah tu mitzvot חוקים ומשפטים אותנו ממדת אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונזמח בדברי תורתך ומצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגה יומם ולילה נגה יומם ולילה ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמי ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל אוהב עמו ישראל אמן. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אמן. We continue together on page 159. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace.
מי כמוך באל מדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה. זה אלי אנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם באל. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
As I walked from the parking lot to the sanctuary tonight, I had a little scare. I looked out the front gate and saw a pile and a jumble of stuff that made me uneasy. A tiki torch, which never looks fun to me anymore. A cooler that was rather large, and some other items. And my first instinct was to think, there's someone who wants to hurt us. But then after talking to people here and finding out more, what we found was it was the remains of somebody who was homeless, who had left his stuff scattered about on the street. And I felt embarrassed and ashamed because I imagined that for that person, their life is quite a bit scarier than mine. What it must feel like to have all your possessions that you could simply carry with you. And then what do you do when you lose all of that? Each night, we're supposed to pray the Hashkivenu, where we ask God to put a shelter of peace over us. But it's really our world that needs the shelter of peace. So much suffering in the world, so much uncertainty, so many refugees, so many people without shelter, either physically or emotionally. But Judaism teaches us that we're supposed to be partners with God. So it's fine for us to pray. But the purpose of prayer is not for God to magically answer our prayers, but to give us the strength so we can answer our prayers as well. And so as we offer the Hashkivenu on page 160, let's think, what can each of us do to create a little bit of shelter over the part of the world that we live in?
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'amideinu malkeinu lechaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai shalom. V'amideinu malkeinu l'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom. V'amideinu malkeinu
It's my pleasure to invite up all of our B'nai Mitzvah students to join us on the Bima. Come bring your prayer books. If you're not sure if you're being invited, if the last person in your class has not yet had their bar bat mitzvah, you are still a B'nai Mitzvah student. So come on up. And if you have a bar bat mitzvah date, you are also a bar bat mitzvah student. We continue on page 162. Please join us.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam, be'erit olam, beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam, ki sheishet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz ubayom hashvi'i Shabbat, Shabbat, vayinaf ha-Shabbat, Shabbat, vayinaf hash. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam, be'erit olam, beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam, oti leolam.
Please stand and join us on page 164.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi agitei latecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu. Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei hakol, v'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot, u'mevi ge'ula lifnei b'neihem, למען שמו באהבה, מלך חוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah Atagi Bor Lelam Adonai Mekaye Akol Ataram Leoshia Morid Hata Mekakel Chaim Bechesed Mekaye Akol Berachamim Rabim Somek Noflim Verofei Cholim Umating Rasurim Umekayem Emunato Lishanei Afar Michamoka Ba'gevurot Umido Melach Melech Meimitu Mechaye Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman Talachayot HaKol Baruch Atah Adonai Mekayeh HaKol Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh Ukadoshim B'Kol Yom Yehalelucha Selah Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. We continue praying privately from page 172 through 180, either standing or sitting. You guys can sit if you want. On either the odd or the even pages. What it wants, what it needs, what it yearns when you breathe. Go inside your heart and see. May the words of my mouth meditations of my heart be kind, be true. May they be acceptable to you, oh, my rock and my redeemer.
Our thoughts and our prayers now turn to those who are in need of healing of body or healing of spirit. We continue on page 371.
Mi sheberach avoteinu mekor habracha le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Sheberach imotenu mekor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shleima, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Yes, we do. So from Wednesday night to Thursday night, meaning last night, it was Yom HaShoah, Yom HaShoah v'Hagevurah. Has anybody ever heard that name before? What do we usually call Holocaust Memorial Day in English? That's not what I meant. In America, not in English. In America, what do American Jews usually call? Is that better, Cantor? She's very particular with language. How do American Jews usually call Holocaust Memorial Day? Yom HaShoah. We somehow have we got taller. Somehow forgotten the whole second part of the name, the Hagevurah. And I actually think that's really important, because does anyone know what Shoah means? In English, we use the word Holocaust, but that's not the word that Jews use. A Holocaust is from the Greek, and from the Greek Bible, referring to offerings that were made in the temple, offerings that were consumed by fire. So that was the name that was used for the Holocaust, not by Jews, but by non-Jews because of the concentration camps and the incineration ovens. However, for Jews, we chose the word Shoah because Shoah means catastrophe. Because what we saw happen to us was not an offering, it was not a gift to God. We don't believe that our God wants people to die or to be tortured or to be killed. So for us, what happened during World War II was a Shoah. It was an utter devastation and catastrophe. But when the holiday or the holy day got put on the Jewish calendar, the name was Yom HaShoah VeHaGvura, the day of remembrance of the Holocaust or of the catastrophe and the heroism. And I think as a community, we've made a huge mistake for often forgetting the heroism. Because heroism is not just about physically fighting. We have no problem telling stories about the resistance and the underground and people in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. But we often forget that there were so many different ways to be heroic, to be more than ordinary, to be able to rise to a capacity higher than what we perhaps thought. And we lose something when we only think about the painful part or the horrible part of what happened to us, and we fail to also remember how so many chose to respond. So first, a little controversy. When Yom HaShoah got put on the calendar, there was some arguments in the Jewish community because the date, oh, you can't really see that, so I'm just going to tell you what it says up there. The date that was chosen for Yom HaShoah by the Israeli government was the 27th of Nisan. Does anyone, this is a Hebrew school or religious school quiz, does anybody remember what month or what other holiday happens in the month of Nisan? What was that? Passover. Is Passover a happy holiday or a sad holiday? I heard the kids say it. They were whispering, but you were right. It's a happy holiday. It is the birthday of the Jewish people, just as Rosh Hashanah is the birthday of the world, where we celebrate the creation of the world. On Passover, we celebrate the birth of the Jewish people, where we made a transformation from just being a family to being something bigger when we reached for freedom. And so the Israeli government wanted to use the 27th of Nisan to commemorate Yom HaShoah because that was the date of the beginning of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. And the ultra-Orthodox had a huge problem with this because the month of Nisan is supposed to be a month of joy and celebration. However, the government at the time said, you know what, there's some things that are so big and so horrible that we have to stop our celebration just to remember it. And so Yom HaShoah lands exactly between the last day of Passover and Yom HaZikaron, Israeli Memorial Day. And in between and Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut, Israeli Day of Independence. And so between these holidays, we have this moment of profound pain. And so what I wanted to look at, and I'm hoping you guys could read that, but I'll read it out loud just in case. What I want to look at are some different types of heroism. Heroism of the spirit, resistance of the spirit. Because when somebody beats you down, not just physically, but spiritually, it is very easy to come to believe and to internalize the message that you're being given. It's very hard to maintain your dignity and your humanity in times of profound oppression. So this is a reading from Hugo Grin. This is actually out of our prayer book, out of our Yom HaShoah memorial service. And he wrote, and you could see him on the right as a young man, and then how he looked much later in life. It was the cold winter of 1944, and although we had nothing like calendars, my father, who was my fellow prisoner there, took me and some of our friends to a corner in our barrack. He announced that it was the eve of Hanukkah, and he produced a curious shaped clay bowl and began to light a wick immersed in his precious but now melted margarine ration. Before he could recite the first blessing, I protested at the waste of food. He looked at me, then at the lamp, and finally said, "You and I have seen that it is possible to live up to 3 weeks without food. We once lived almost 3 days without water, but you cannot live properly for 3 minutes without hope." Anyone want to guess what Hugo Gryn did after the war? I'm proud to say he became a rabbi. And not only did he become a rabbi, but he also dedicated much of his life to interfaith work. He was ordained at the Hebrew Union College in Cincinnati, but he spent his time as a rabbi in England. And I found this to be a very profound teaching, or profound saying, that was said by Reverend Ernest Ray, the head of the BBC's head of religious broadcasting, after Rabbi Gryn passed away. And he said his experience as a youth in the Nazi death camps could have left him embittered. Instead, it gave him a deep sympathy for all suffering people and a determination to fight intolerance and prejudice. Reverend Ernest Ray is teaching us in that quote that everyone has a choice. You have a choice of how to respond in the moment that something is happening to you, and you have a choice how to respond in retrospect as well. I want to look at another survivor of the Holocaust teaching. One evening, and this is Viktor Frankl. Raise your hand if you've heard of Viktor Frankl. Some of you may have been required to read some of his writings in college. Viktor Frankl wrote, "One evening when we were already resting on the floor of our hut, dead tired, soup bowls in hand, a fellow prisoner rushed in and asked us to run out to the assembly grounds and to see the wonderful sunset. Standing outside, we saw sinister clouds in the west and the whole sky alive with clouds of ever-changing shapes and colors from steel blue to blood red. The desolate gray mud huts provided a sharp contrast, while the puddles on the muddy ground reflected the glowing sky. Then, after minutes of moving silence, one prisoner said to another, 'How beautiful the world could be.'" Any thoughts about what Viktor Frankl or Rabbi Gryn has to teach us? Any reflections about how could we take their teachings in a time when I'm hoping none of you are living in a state of physical anxiety or pain or panic? What can this teach us in our everyday life? I'm going to just wait here until someone raises a hand. Blair?
Well, it's funny because I sort of had this thought yesterday because I was outside and I was at a gas station and it just suddenly struck me how beautiful everything was. The clarity of the sky, the way the sun, bounced off of everything, just the way the air was moving. And it's this kind of feeling. It's like no matter, and I am always cognizant of the damage that we are doing to our environment, to other people, to animals, to the horrible things that we are doing. But every once in a while, if you just stop and look at the beauty, and that really resonates how beautiful everything could be. And sometimes it is. And you know it won't last, but hold on.
I think that's beautiful, and I like that you caught that word, could be. It's not how beautiful the world is, but how beautiful it could be. We've been given this gift. We've been given infinite potential, but it's our choice. Any other thoughts? Debbie, are you just stretching? Okay, I don't blame you. So let's look at another teaching by Viktor Frankl. And this is a more famous quote by him. "Everything can be taken from a man." Keep in mind this was written a long time ago. You could read person. "Everything can be taken from a person, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. These teachings, oh, and for those who don't know, Viktor Frankl was a very famous neurologist, psychiatrist, and whose seminal work was Man's Search for Meaning, and how what he credits his survival to was having hope, finding meaning even in the pain, even in the suffering. As he said, his entire psychological approach was based on the premise that man's underlying motivator in life is a will to meaning, even in the most difficult of circumstances. Rabbi Abraham Heschel expanded on that idea in the late 60s when he was working as part of a commission for the US government looking at the aged and the elderly and how we could improve the quality of their lives. And he came to the same conclusion, that there has to be a possibility of meaning in our lives, that one of the problems that we do in our homes for the aged is that we fill it with activities, but we don't fill it with meaning. That having opportunities to play bingo or have different games or activities like that, that doesn't feed the soul of a person who spent their whole life working. What they want to know is, how are they contributing to society? And no matter how old we are, that's something we have a need for, which is why when you see grandparents helping grandchildren, it brings life. Well, unless the grandchildren are really hyper. You were a little hyper when you were little. It brings great and profound meaning to their lives, that we never lose that. And when we do lose a feel of being needed or of having meaning in our lives, that's when we lose our will. I've been thinking of these quotes all week because it's been hard for me to look at what's going on in the news and not see shadows of the Holocaust. When you hear about mass graves and mass murder, when you see apartment buildings having been devastated, when you see, I think we're over 1 million refugees now from the Ukraine, when you see these massive numbers in such a short time, when you hear talk of nuclear war being thrown about, it is very hard. And another way to say nuclear war is world war, because we know that that sort of thing does not get contained into very specific boundaries. It's hard not to look at the pictures of the streets of Ukraine and having them look very much, if you look at the picture on the left, it's from the resistance, from the Jewish resistance during World War II. It looks the same, except one is in black and white and one is in color. And it's painful and it's hard. But then we hear stories of profound courage and resistance. My favorite story so far from the Ukraine war is still that lady who went up to a soldier with a handful of sunflower seeds. Do you guys remember this lady? And she said, here, put these sunflower seeds in your pocket, because sunflower seeds are the national flower of Ukraine, and sunflowers are. And she said, put it in your pocket, and when you die on your way out of this country, at least you'll leave something beautiful behind. First of all, she reminded me of every scary old Jewish woman I've ever met. And I remembered that a lot of Jews are from the Ukraine, and so I know where we get some of the toughness from. But I also thought, what a spirit of resistance. I wouldn't have that courage. I wouldn't have that courage to walk up to somebody with a machine gun or whatever rifle that he was carrying and to say something like that. And I think of the people who are sending their sons and their husbands while they go and find safety so that the men and their families can fight. Not soldiers, but ordinary people like us. People who should be running shops or being dentists or teachers or gardeners. Not people who are trained to be soldiers, but they have a profound sense of purpose and meaning in their life, of protecting their homes, of protecting their families, and protecting their country. When we forget to talk about the courage of the Holocaust, we forget that that is half of the lesson. We talk about the Shoah because we don't want people to repeat genocide or terrorism or the horrific acts of slaughter that were done not only against Jews, but other groups as well. But we also shouldn't forget that there are some times in the face of evil, you have to stand up, and you have to have courage, and you have to resist. Whether it's lighting a menorah, when that little bit of oil could be food, but recognizing that you need to feed your soul as well as your belly, or simply finding some meaning and some beauty in the world. This is a poem written by Frant Abbas. This is the little boy in the picture when he was 14 years old at Theresienstadt. A 14-year-old who I think through his words shows great courage. I'm a Jew and will be a Jew forever. Even if I should die from hunger, never will I submit. I will always fight for my people. On my honor, I will never be ashamed of them. I give my word. I am proud of my people, how dignified they are. Even if I am suppressed, I will always come back to life. I love that what he's proud of is the sense of dignity. It's another way of saying courage or humanity. And that is also the story of the Holocaust. That while too many perished, so many taught us how to live as human beings.
Eli, Eli, שלא ייגמר לעולם, החול והים, רשרוש של המים, ורק השמיים, תפילת האדם, החול והים, רשרוש של המים, ורק השמיים, תפילת האדם. Oh God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the water, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the water, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart.
Now it's my pleasure, wait, I saw him a second ago, where'd he go? Oh, it's my pleasure to invite up, it's hard with the mass. It's my pleasure to invite up the president of our congregation, Josh Mastronardi, for some Shabbat greetings. And Jay, I'm going to apologize to you in advance because I probably won't correct him during his announcements. I was the bane of Jay's existence when he was president.
I could use an editor. Shabbat Shalom. And thank you to Rabbi Cantor and Michael, and Mazel Tov to Noah. Just some of the highlights. Tonight, following services, will be an oneg in the courtyard, sponsored by the B'nai Mitzvah class. Tomorrow morning, 9:30, Torah study on Zoom. 10:30 is the Shabbat morning services for Noah's Bar Mitzvah. On Sunday, religious school, and a couple of the highlights. There's a gardening, if you're interested in that. Come with your gardening gloves and join. At 6:30 on Sunday night, the community-wide virtual Yom HaShoah V'Hagavura commemoration is being held. So that's going to be on Zoom. There's registration links in the Hadashot. Next week, we have really special. In honor of Yom HaAtzmaut, CBI is hosting an artist in residence from our sister congregation Kodesh V'Chol, Gilad Bar Shalev, a photographer. He's going to be here all week, spending time with the religious school, confirmation class, and one interesting event on Wednesday evening at 6:30 is a Food for Thought event here in the sanctuary. You can register for that online. And next Friday, he's going to be giving a visual drosh. I don't know what that means, so I'm going to come see it. On Tuesday, May 3rd, Rabbi Al... Exactly. On Tuesday, the 3rd, Rabbi Alfie's hosting the Faces of Israel film class at noon. On next Saturday, May 7th, in the morning, the National Alliance on Mental Illness is hosting a walk in Land Park. CBI has a team, a pretty large team of people doing the walk. If you're interested in either sponsoring or walking, check that out online. There's a link for our team. And in the evening, finally, back in person, the spring homecoming event. It's going to be a lot of fun, great food, great entertainment, great people, and it should be a good time. So you can get information on getting tickets for that online. And I know I say this every week, but the Hadashot has all this stuff and a lot more. It's worth taking 5 minutes to skim through. I guarantee you're going to find something that you'll find interesting. Noah, would you like to introduce your family?
Wait.
Hello. So this is my sister, Lucy.
Stand up.
Stand up, family members. My dad, Jason. My mother, Jill. My cousin, Arnie. My cousin, Jackie. Uncle Mike. Grandpa Robert. Grandpa Steve. Grandma Sherry. Grandma Terry. Lynn and Dawn. Cousins Lynn and Dawn, sorry.
Welcome all.
Welcome and Mazel Tov. I'd now like to ask any members of the board, past presidents, and committee chairs to stand up and introduce yourselves. And I'll call out your name so we don't have to run around with the mic. No, you call your name and then I'll say it. It's Eve Panish from the Women of B'nai Israel. Good. Steve Orkand. Davida Levin Robinson. And then 2 for 1, Bina Lefkowitz and Jay Schneer, past presidents. Jane Orkand, who's the chair of the gift shop.
And I'm Mike Hersher. I'm the chair of the Lifelong Learning Committee. And just one more announcement, on May 10th, we're going to have a speaker named Joe Goodman from HIAS, which is the Jewish Immigrant Relief Organization nationally. And for those people who are really, listening to Rabbi Alfie's words, feel some need to do something yourself to help those people in Ukraine who are leaving their homes and who are living in cellars and whatnot. Joe Goodman will have many ideas about what you can do as an individual to feel like you're part of the solution. So that's May 10th here in the sanctuary at 7 p.m.
Great. Thank you, and see everybody at the Oneg. Shabbat Shalom.
We continue now with our concluding prayers, and it's my pleasure to invite up the B'nai Mitzvah students to join us once again on the Bima as we continue with the Aleinu on the bottom half of page 586.
Please.
Oh, please rise.
I wait for
forgot.
that. That's my favorite.
You're allowed to ask.
Come. No, I know, but I like from your way. It's like the rhythm. Yes, I like that. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת קדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated.
You get to sit. Our thoughts now turn towards loved ones who are no longer with us. And it is with sadness that we recall the recent passing of Mary Lou Bloom, the beloved mother of Evan Bloom, beloved mother-in-law of Susan Dornfeld, and beloved grandmother of Sam and Elijah Bloom. Also with great sadness, we recall the recent passing of Carol Trachtenberg, the beloved mother of Jeanette, Tracy, and Jeff Egan, beloved mother-in-law of Carrie Egan, beloved grandmother of Bethany Grove, Nathan Egan, Mitchell and Rachel Warrington, and beloved great-grandmother of Simon, Lucia, and Lewis Grove. Also with great sadness, we recall the recent passing of Gail Blair Leatherwood, the beloved father of Blair Leatherwood and Melanie Souza, and beloved father-in-law of Judy Emick Leatherwood. And we found out just before services tonight that there is another passing of a loved one in our congregation. And Casey, on behalf of the cantor and myself and the congregation, our condolences to you upon the passing of your beloved Grandma Farrow. I know you gave your grandparents great and profound joy during your lifetime, and what a gift you have been to them. And our condolences to you at this sad time. Zichronam livracha, may all of their memories forever be a blessing. We also recall loved ones who have passed away at this time in years past. We remember Ari Barankin, Ethel Bloom, Bella Boschus, Scott Bro, Donald Cahen, Sylvia Fine, Deborah Fine, Suzanne Geller, Charles Gordon, Jewel Greenberg, Francis Grossman, Jerome Gutterman, James Daniel Harrison, Basil Holmes, Sashi Hyatt, Miriam Jacobs, Bert Jacobs, David Lager, Bernard Levin, Helen Levin, Marvin Levine, Eva Magat, Ralph Merksimer, Asher Minkin, Helena Nathan, Adolph Pakris, Eli Pollack, Ben Roberts, Herman Rosen, Rose Rubin, Elaine Chenier, Bert Silver, Agatha Singer, Sophie Singer, Norton Spitzer, Gertrude Steinberg, Lawrence Tabor, Jean Weiner, and Beverly Wolf. If there are any names that anyone would like to add to the Kaddish list tonight, please feel free to call those names aloud as my gaze meets yours.
Sylvia Behrman.
If you're saying Kaddish for a loved one tonight, I'd like to invite you to please rise. And if the congregation can join me in these words of comfort. Hamakom yenechem etchem betok sha'ar of Leit Zion v'Yishalayim. May God comfort you among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. We rise to offer comfort to those who grieve as we continue together on page 598 with the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirtei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'lizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'mei almaya, yitvarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudsha b'richu, le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran ve'alma ve'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mormav, hu yasei shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. May the source of peace send the peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, and let us all say,
Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated.
So, Cantor and Michael, what will the musical stylings of Mr. Hersher bring us tonight?
Be patient. There are places I'll remember all my life, though some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some have gone, and some remain. All these places have their moments. With lovers and friends, I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living. In my life, I love them all. But of all these friends and lovers, there's no one compares with you, and these memories lose their meaning when I think of love as something new. Oh, I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll often think about them. In my life, I love them all. In my life, I love them all.
Thank you, Michael. That was beautiful. Now, Cantor, I don't know about you, but this makes me nervous. So for those of you who don't know, we have to do that first, but I've been looking at this whole time. I'm still going to finish my thought, and then we'll go to the,
then
so I'll
we'll
let
go.
you get the Kiddush.
Okay, I'll get that.
So when it was only the three of us, Ryan and Dean, in here for a year and a half, and we were doing services from here, we didn't have a challah, a real challah under here. And each week, Dean would put something under the challah cover, usually thematic for whatever we were talking about that week. And this just looks very square, and that makes me scared. Should I be scared?
The only times it was really scary is when
It was
it
matzah?
it had googly eyes on
Oh,
it.
yeah. There was a matzah with googly eyes. There was a Lego challah.
Yeah, there were all kinds of fun things.
But for me, the scariest were the last 2 weeks when it was matzah, and I'm just hoping that's not what that is.
No, I hope not
Okay.
too.
So, are you ready? Let me see. Oh, that could be
Kiddush
white wine.
can be found on page 123.
Doesn't smell of alcohol.
Are you ready?
How would you know what alcohol smells like? It's not. It's grape
No,
juice.
he's saying that it still smells like juice, so it doesn't smell like something foreign. How's that? There, did I save you?
That was a very nice.
Are you ready? You're going to do this all on your own, right?
No.
No, okay. Please join us. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom tekilah lemikra'e kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim kivanu v'karta ve'otanu kidashta mikol amim ve'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen. L'chaim u'l'sholom.
It's grape juice.
Okay, the fear factor. Ready? Ah, it is. It's a challah. It's the stunt challah.
So there is good, delicious, untouched by the rabbi and cantor challah. That will be, if you go through those doors, through the social hall, into the courtyard, there is a wonderful oneg awaiting us with fresh challah and other goodies.
Yeah, he's still drinking. Don't do that. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom v'te'avon.
Tavon, please join us in the courtyard. I just want to do it like a drumstick.